floating into the ocean, and the Terminators were trying to rescue those parts, which you know, like the one where they missed out one of the parts and Pterodax was able to corrupt one of them, that kind of idea. One of the parts that must have drifted in the Silver Sea, that fell and floated on the Silver Sea, might have an explanation why the former mask of Jarl which is the Koma, broke in half, and in exchange, he's got the Li Khan's mask as Li Khan technically gave it to which Li Khan gave to Vakama to remember him before his death. And the favorite part about the Great Disc storyline is that I would have preferred if they did do a Terminator. They added at least 4 minutes of the Terminator versus Mabuzak storyline after finding the Great Discs. Then after the Mabuzak story, then they hit to the Colosseum where the Pterodax engineered the arrest of the Toa. While he cost him up to Ragaduma, I would at least prefer to see that, so that we get to see the transition of the Great Disc storyline, where they were found in the Metrus, helped to defeat Mabuzak, then Vakama merged them, which turned out to be the Disc of Time. When I was young, I found out when he quoted one of these great discs has got to be the Mask of Time in his head. That leads me to think combining them might be the explanation that they evolve into a Disc of Time. I was wondering, did he make the Vi out? Did he make the Mask of Time out of those discs that he combined the Great Discs with? According to Bionic Sector 01, yes, he did. Yes, the Great Discs did merge into the Disc of Time. Then Vakama wore the mask and then activated and channeled his power, but of course, because I was young and I wasn't aware, is that even Vakama is victimized by the mask's power. And the Vi fell to the sea, which we thought we'd never see it again. But exactly to that, in the Television storyline, how did Tao get the Mask of Time then? Of course, the Binding of Adventures 10 book that Greg wrote, somewhere that took place after the third draft storyline, he was able to retrieve it and the sea exposure, rusting it to orange. So we get to see much more of the evolution. And one thing that puzzled me is because Greg put the story on hold due to what happened since, like, if you read it in Wikipedia that Greg Farsday is busy on family obligations, is that what has now happened to the Mask of Time since after Voparak stole it in the Destiny War podcast? We haven't heard much of it since. And the favorite part about it is we get to see Vakama's transition from Matoran to Turaga. Matoran, for they worked for their respective Metrus, transformed into Toa, which has various missions, and the fact that the body parts changed, like the Toa heads, like the Toa heads transformed into Toa heads, and then moved back to being Toa heads when they became Turaga. Of course, there was a missing transformation part, which we'll go over and wipe a shot, which is in the sequel to this one, and which we'll go over about the film review after. And the one thing that puzzled me is that when Mato activated the wings on his back, it looked when the scene when Mato hits that Turaga Duma billboard or the post or whatever, when the wings were activated, he exclaimed in excitement as if it was the first time he began flying with it. Even though before that he did fly with those wings before. Such as during the search of the Great Disc and the fight against Mabuzak, I'm sure he would have used those wings to fly before. And the chute that Mato dove in to retrieve his Metru Great Disc looked like he's not suffering, whereas according to the comic he was suffering. According to when you read the comic Disc of Danger and see the scene when Mato has to search for his Great Disc, you'll see why that. You see what I'm talking about? He sounds like he's going to suffer if he doesn't get out of there soon. But in this film, it doesn't look like he cares about that. And romantic ride drive. Originally, I thought they do have human emotions, but Greg says it's non-canonical. because they're not supposed to be human. They're not supposed to have a human emotion. The only thing that's human emotion about them is friendship and stuff, and what they call fawning relationship. And the Matoran pods that we saw, where the Matoran got developed and even Taragaduma got developed, and I had a feeling that that's what the Terminator was supposed to be, because why? Because before the film came out, I almost noticed that the Terminator when they form a serial because had Aquaman's image, and they put arrow lines represent, you can put them in there. I was like, seriously? And looking at the film, I was like, are they serious about doing that? But technically they are. The idea about this is, I think the Terminator top parts clipped together, forming spherical shape, it gave Greg an excuse to kind of play Matrix style out of it. What I mean by that is because I remember in Matrix, humans were dwelling in those giant pods hibernating to become inhabitants of the Matrix. But of course, these Matoran are not dreaming they're in Matrix. Pterodax is supposed to cleanse. What I found out is that Pterodax was supposed to cleanse their memories, so he could fill it with corruption inside, which he did win according to the end of the Binding of Adventure 10 book. If you guys read that book, he did win by corrupting one of them. Since that one was missing. And the Colosseum, I thought, was going to have those two vent holes there, as if it's like 3 separate buildings, and you can see a bridge there. But actually, it's all in one building. I don't get. That leads me to think that I don't get why these things are there. And and Pterodax got to have an entire had a evolution on himself too. He caused numbers of the Turaga throughout the course of the film, and exactly where he got the Kirill, I don't know. Then he merged. After he used the Shadow to grab Deacon Cracker's bodies, I had a feeling that's how he became a giant, and that leads me to think the wings came from Nivork, which technically yes it did. The Falcon Nivork was merged into that was merged by that Shadow Hand along with Deacon Cracker, which is what made that combined as that Ultimate Duma, which was once released in Toys R Us as a limited edition, with a special edition Kanoe Karakan Mask of Shadows to represent him. Of course, the difference in that between the film is compared to the film is that the only example is that the set has got jaws that you can open and close. The guy himself is actually the same body design as his 2003 Titan form. Without jaws, the same body design as his 2003 persona. The only thing added to him is the wings. And he has much crimson red and rusted greenish style on him, whereas the set is more like silver and blue, with a little bit of red on the paw and green, and a little bit of green around him. And the wings are more like extended sharpening, because Nivork's set had 2 Uvake K-Rack parts on each wings, whereas Pterodax had 4 sharp tools built him as each wings. Of course, regardless of that, it did kind of play catch as a combine. It turned out to be the same guy, because you have a Taraga Duma Nivork set, and this small Taraga guy merged Nivork to combine with Nivork and Nivork makes the idea about Pterodax. The Pterodax was in Taraga Duma, merging Nivork and Nivork's bodies into his own style. And of course, similar parts about Vakama is that he did play a bit like Tahu. He did play back at Tahu in Mask of Light when it comes to depressing emotions when they collaborate with the Tahu of Water. But part of it doesn't act like him a bit, because I remember Tahu was rough. Because I remember Tahu's character is supposed to be rough, whereas Vakama is too nervous to be rough until 2005. Until around 2005, that's when he becomes rough. But around 2005, there was no bond between him and the Tower of Water. And the pillars is almost confused me. Like, why? When the first time I saw the film, when the pillars come out of the fields in the Colosseum, I was like, what's that supposed to do? What are they supposed to do? Dodge? But actually, Pterodax built that game to trick the Toe into thinking they could do it without their weapons, until they realize they are too weak. And calling them outlaws for Li Khan's capture, and even though they were trying to tell the truth, the idea that the Toe are considered outlaw, are considered a vigilante in the film, did kind of look like a share. Did kind of look like was a similar was also shared with The Dark Knight, which we'll go over about that film later when I get to more film reviews. The discs. Yeah, I forgot to point that out. The Kanoka discs use the additional Kanoka. Every additional Kanoka are said to have used to have these symbols to represent used to have these kind of symbol patterns placed on the center part to represent the Metru they originate. Like this is a Gar Metru disc. But the additional discs, film-wise, don't have the color print at all. It's just a plain. They're just plain old discs, and the symbol of these discs get to belong to the great discs, to the Torah cover. Like when